Hello guys, and welcome back to Mr. Deep Coding channel. This is episode 16 part 4. Now in today's part we are going to work on the post feature here on the home screen. We have already implemented the data and the domain layer of our application in our shared module. So in this episode we will mainly be working on the presentation layer. We will first of all create our own paging manager class, and then we will link that with our view model, and finally go on the home screen and implement everything. Right, so without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so let's first create our paging manager class, and for that we will go inside a common package. Then in the util package, here we need to create a new Kotlin file, and we will name this as paging manager. In here we need to declare an interface paging manager that is going to be generic on type model. Alright, now our paging manager will have two methods, because every paging manager should be responsible to load items and also to reset the pagination if needed. We will provide a default implementation for our paging manager. Now right below this interface declaration, we can create a generic class, and we will call this one as a default paging manager. It will be generic on model. Now you can call this item or whatever you want. Some people also prefer putting just P or T for type. Now of course this is going to implement our paging manager. In here we need to of course override the load items and also the reset method. Now like I said, the paging manager will be responsible for orchestrating the pagination logic and also communicate the state change to our view models, for example. Now for that reason we will take some callbacks in the constructor of this default paging manager. Our first callback will be the owner request. This is the function that will be used to make the request and get a page of a result. Here we will define a private inline val, and we'll call this one as on request. Of course this is going to be a suspend lambda, and since we are making our request based on page, we will take a page that is going to be an integer. Now of course here you can consider taking another type here in the generic type. For example, you will take a key type. Here we don't need that because our keys here are just integer. Now this is going to return a result. We need to take result from our common.util package, result of a list of model. Now we need another callback, private inline val. Now this one is going to be called on success. Of course for the success lambda we need to pass a page of items. So here we will take items, that is going to be a list of model, and we also need to pass a page, so we will take also page as integer. Now the return type here is going to be unit. For when an error occurs, so we will have this on error callback. It will take the message, or let's call it the cause of the error. This is going to be a string, and it's also going to take here the page and returns unit. Now the last callback that we need is on load state change. Now this is going to take a is loading boolean, and it returns unit. Alright, so we will need these four callbacks on request, on success, on error, and on load state change to be able to communicate with the external world such as our view models. Alright, now first thing first, here we're going to define two variables, current page and is loading. We will set the default value for current page to be 1, and is loading is going to be false. Now we need to create a constant Kotlin object because we don't have that here inside our Android app module. Here inside our util package, let's create a new Kotlin object class that we call as constant. Now we will put our initial page number here, and the initial page is going to be page 1. Alright, now let's implement the load items. In here, we will first check if we are already loading, and in that case, we just need to return. If we are not loading, then we will set our is loading to be true. And of course, since is loading has been changed and it's now true, we need to inform the view model, for example, that the load state has changed and the is loading now is set to true. So after that, we will now get a page. So we will define this variable result and call on request, to which we're going to pass at the current page. Now after we get our page of items, we are going to set the is loading to false and inform via this callback on load state change is loading now is false. Then we will check using this when expression. So when result is error, we will call the onError callback and passing in here the message for the cause. And if this message is null, and in that case, we're going to pass an unexpected error message. Now we need to add this inside our constant. Right below initial page number, we are going to add unexpected error message. Now, of course, here I'm just making things simple. That's why I just had these constants, but feel free to add string resources. In case the result is successful, we're going to call onSuccess. We will pass our result.data and the current page. We also need to make sure that we increment the current page. Now, the reset method is going to be simple. We just need to reset the current page to initial page number. All right, so that's it for this default paging manager. And now let's open home screen view model.kt. Inside our home screen view model, the first thing we need to do is to take the get post use case in the constructor. So we will have this get post use case, and then right below home refresh state, we will define a variable, the paging manager, that will be Leslie initialized. We need to create, of course, this create paging manager method. Now let's go, for example, right below this refresh data. We need to have here a private function, create paging manager. Now this is going to return a paging manager. The type here is going to be the post. Make sure to select post from our domain package. Of course, here we will return our default paging manager. Here we are going to provide the lambdas for the onRequest. Of course, for the onRequest, we will need to have the page. After the onRequest, we will have an onSuccess. Now for the onSuccess, we need to have our list of posts and also the page. We will have the onError that gives us the cause and the page. And the last callback is onLoad state change. All right, now for the onRequest, we are going to call a get post use case. Now, of course, a get post use case need the page. You'll pass the page passed here, and the page size, we need to add that inside our constant. So let's go inside constant and we'll create another constant here, default request page size. Of course, we don't need this comma. Now coming here inside home screen view model, we need to pass constants from android.com.util, and we'll pass a default request page size. All right, now coming for the onSuccess lambda. In here, we need to modify our post feed UI state. So we will check if the page of post that we get here is empty. And then we know that we cannot load any more items. So we will make post feed UI state.copy, and we will set and reached, and we will set this to true. Now we need to add this and reached to our post feed UI state. Now coming below, now here for the post feed UI state, we need to have this val and reached a boolean. By default, it will be false. Okay, now let's come back here. Now if the page of post is not empty, we will check to see if the page is equal to constant dot initial page number. Now if this is the first page that we get, either because we first landed on the home screen or we refreshed the page, in that case we need to make sure that if we already have some post, we set the post to an empty list. So here we need to call post feed UI state equals post feed UI state dot copy, and for the list of posts we will set that to an empty list. And lastly, we will call our post feed UI state.copy. Now we will set our post to be post feed UI state dot post plus the post page that we have got. We will also set and reached to be equal to post, the page of post that we get, dot size. Now if the size is less constant dot default request page size, then we know that there is no more post to be loaded. Now of course here it requires a list of sample posts. All right, the thing is that this list of posts, now we need to go here inside our post feed UI state. We need to make sure that we are now pointing to the post model of our domain package. All right, now let's come back here. I guess that's it for the unsuccess case. Now what we have done here is that we checked if the page of post that we get when the unsuccess is called, if that is empty, then we know that there is no post to be loaded. We will just set the end reach to true. Now if this page of post is not empty, then we will check to see if the page that we have loaded is equal to the initial page number. Now this can be true because, for example, if the user refreshed the home screen, and in that case we need to make sure that there is no post, so we will set our post to be empty list. And finally we will call post feed UI state.copy. We will set our post to be post feed UI state post plus the page of post, and the end reached will be true if the current page that we have loaded, if the return number of posts is less than our default request page size. Alright, now let's do the on error case. In here we first of all need to check if this page that we have tried to load is equal to constant.initial page. Now if this is the initial page, it means that the refresh has failed, and in that case we need to set home refresh state to be home refresh state.copy and set the refresh error message to be the cause. Now if this is not the initial page, then we know that loading more page has failed, and in that case we're going to modify the post feed UI state instead. So in here we will call post feed UI state equal post feed UI state.copy. Loading error message, we will set that to cause. Alright, then lastly for the unload state change, we will just call our post feed UI state state.copy. Is loading will be equal to is loading. Alright, so that's it for creating our paging manager. Alright, now we need to come here inside fetch data. Of course we need to remove this, we don't need it. Now here we are going to call paging manager apply. First of all, we will reset the pagination and then call a load item to load our first page of posts. But notice one thing here, get followable users use case, it has a suspending function call, meaning that it will suspend the coroutine launched here, and loading the first page of post will wait until this get followable users use case returns a result. Now this is not exactly what we want here. So we want to launch this get followable users use case in a separate coroutine so that it doesn't prevent us from loading the first page of post. So for that we're going to make use of the async coroutine builder. We will replace this instruction here, and we will define this onboarding deferred because the async coroutine builder is going to return a deferred, and we will need to call onboarding deferred.await to get the result. We need to paste that here. Now of course the view model scope is using supervisor job, which means that even if the get followable users use case failed, it will not affect this load items here. And that's exactly what we need, because showing the onboarding section is optional, but if loading the first page of post fails, in that case we have, as you can see here, when we got an error while loading the first page, we set our home refresh state to be in the error state by setting this refresh error message equal to the cause. So what I'm trying to say here is that showing the onboarding section is not mandatory, but we need to load the first page of post, and if this request here of loading the first page of post fails, in that case our home screen will just show an error message and will not show the onboarding section, even if the request to get this followable user succeeded. Let's make this private. Alright, and now that our post feed UI state is now pointing to this post model of our domain layer, let's open homescreen.kt, and of course I guess we're going to get some errors that we need to fix, because this post list item now normally expect our sample post, so we will change this, and of course we will take now post from our domain model. Okay, we have also the user ID. Now here the user ID is expected to be an integer, but we are now providing a long. Okay, on profile click here should now get the user ID. Now we need to make this a long, and it requires a string, and it found a nullable string. Okay, let's make this nullable. And then for the post likes row, here it said it cannot find comment count because it's comments count. Okay. All right, so now for the post, it's not text anymore. I think it's caption. Yeah. All right, then we need to scroll down for the sample post. First, let's make sure that now we call to domain post. We created this mapper method. All right, I guess that's it for this post list item. Let's go back inside homescreen.kt. Okay, now it's not ID but post ID here. And on post detail navigation, now it's required sample post and find post. Of course, we need to set this to be post from our domain model. Now we don't need to convert to domain post anymore because it's already the domain post. Well, I guess that's it for the home screen. Now another screen that will eventually get some errors that we need to fix is the post detail screen. We need to open the post package and open this post detail screen. Now for the post UI state, it's the sample post. So here we can basically call to domain post for now, and it should fix the error. Now before we run and test our application, let's go inside the DI package and open app module, because home screen view model now is taking a get post use case. We need to get to call this get function from coin. All right, now I've got here my device connected. Let's run and test the application. Of course, you need to make sure that the server application also is running. All right, guys, now a quick note here. I accidentally stopped recording this clip here and I actually realized that in post-production. But don't worry, there is no much change that you need to apply. The only thing I expect you to do is to go inside post detail screen.kt and also home screen. There will be some errors that you need to fix. And of course, you can always refer to my GitHub repository to see what are the changes that you need to apply in your code. All right, so let's get back to the video. There we go. We are getting now some posts. Of course, we need to use our current URL mapper to set also the images. Now, these are the posts that I created a long time ago when I was doing the demo application. As you can see, posts are from April 23rd of April. So let's open no, we don't need to open this. We just need to open our post list item and make sure that we are using our mapper for the image URL. So where is the post list item here? Okay, command click on post list item. All right, then for the async image post the image URL, we of course need to call to current image URL, I guess. Yeah, now we need to call this extension function to current image URL so that it picks the current IP address of our computer. All right, the app is relaunching. All right, now as you can see, we have loaded our first page of post. Of course, the onboarding section is not showing here because we have already followed some people, and even the posts that you see here are just posts from people we followed. We will create a new user in a moment to test for both the onboarding section and also the load of posts from people that we don't follow. Now, our default request page size was of 5 posts. Here, as you can see, we are getting just 5 posts. We also need to make sure that in our post list item for the header section, for the post header, this circle image profile URL, we need also to call to current URL. All right, we can relaunch the application. All right, there we go. We can also see the outdoor image. Okay, we have successfully loaded our first page of post. Right, now to be able to load the next page of post, we first of all need to pass a lazy list state to our lazy column, and we will use that list state to detect when the last item is being shown on the screen so that we can make another request. All right, now coming here inside homescreen.kt, right below pull refresh state, we will create a val list state. and we will use remember lazy list state. Now we need to pass that as a second argument to our lazy column. So here for the state, we will pass our list state. Alright, now below this list state, we will create a state variable that we'll name as should fetch more post. And of course, we need to put that inside a remember block. Now, since this is going to be a state derived from another state, the list state in this case, we need to surround that inside a derived state of. Inside this derived state of block, we first of all need to get the layout info. So we call a list state.layout info. Then using this layout info, we will get the visible items information. So we call layout info.visible items info. Alright, now and then we need to check if layout information.total items count equals 0, meaning if there is no item shown inside our lazy column, then we just need to return false. Else, we will use visible items info to get the last visible item. So we call visible items info.last. And then to tell if we need to load more posts or not, we will call a last visible items.index plus 1 equals to layout info.total items count. Of course, here we need to import the set and get value. Now, what we are basically doing here is that we first of all need to get the layout info, and we use the list state.layout info, and then using that layout info, we can get the visible items info, and we check if layout info.total items count equals 0, meaning that if there's no item shown in our lazy column, then we just return false. Else, we will get the last visible item and then check last visible items index, because indexes start from 0 plus 1 equals to layout info.total items count. Now, if the index of the last visible item equals to the total items count that we have inside our lazy column, then we know that we need to load more post. Alright, now we will use this should fetch more post state as a key for a launched effect that we will use to load more post. Now, coming at the bottom of this box here, right below this pull refresh indicator, we are going to have a new launched effect. The key is our state should fetch more posts. Here we don't rely only on should fetch more post because this is set to true every time that we reach the last item. Now we also need to make sure that the end of our pagination has not been reached yet. Alright, now let's run and test our application. Alright, now the app is launching. Okay, we got our first page of post. We forgot to do one thing, and that is we haven't shown the progress indicator. But anyway, let's just test to see if we can get another page of post. Do we get anything else? Probably not. Alright, anyway. So it seems that we didn't get any page of post. Now the problem also may be that the people that we are following have no more than 5 posts to show. So we will try to reduce the default request page and also make sure that we show a progress indicator. So let's first do that. Alright, now right below these items block inside our lazy column, of course, we need to check if our post feed UI state is loading, and also make sure that the UI state that post is not empty. Then we will add an item. Now the reason we have to provide this key is because since we already provided a unique key for our post, we also need to make sure that this item also has a unique key. Alright, now our item is going to be a circular progress indicator, and we need to put that inside a box so that we can align that at the center and also add some spacing. Now let's go back inside constant.kt, and for the default request page size, let's for example pass here 3 so that we can load just 3 posts. And let's rerun our application and see. Alright, so the app is launching. Alright, so we've got our first page of posts. Let's try now to scroll at the bottom. Okay, the progress indicator is not showing and we don't load any posts. Oh yeah, I understand now. Okay, the reason is that we need to go inside our view model and call the load post and create a method to load more posts. Alright, now we can scroll and right below create paging manager. We can add this load more post method. Now first of all, we check if post UI state the end is reached. If that's true, we just need to return. Else we are going to launch a new coroutine and then call paging manager.load items. Now we need to call this load more items, and for that we need to scroll down inside the on UI action method. For the action load more post, we need to call load more post method. Okay, and now we can launch our application and test. Right, so the app is launching. Now I'll try to scroll. Okay, now you briefly saw probably that loading spinner is briefly showed and then it disappeared because we are still in a local. Calling functions doesn't take really time, and it seems that the people that we are following have just those 5 posts. Now let me try to put a delay so that we can actually see our loading spinner. We need to go inside. Okay, we can go inside paging manager. We can put a delay of 3 seconds. Let's rerun now our application. Alright, now let's try to scroll down, and as you can see we have got our spinner and then it loads the next page. Now since there is no more post to load and the end has been reached, you can see that there is no more spinner, and that's it. Now we will try to create a new user so that we will have all the posts that I have inside the database, and we can have more than just 2 pages of posts. Alright, now we have got this onboarding section that shows because this user hasn't followed anyone yet, and the posts that we see here are just posts from everybody ordered by the most liked. And as you can see, our pagination now loads more than just 2 pages of posts. Okay, if we try now to follow all these people, maybe 3 of them, and if we hit this down button, it will refresh our page, and now we are just getting posts from people that we follow. And if we try to scroll at the bottom, we have got now our loading spinner to load more posts. Alright, now the next thing that we need to do is the like action. We need to make sure that when we hit on this like icon, it increments the number of likes count. Alright, now for the like action, we need to come here inside our home screen view model, and then let's scroll down and create a new method. Maybe we can put that right below the dismiss onboarding. We will have this method like post that is going to take a post. Then we need to call view model scope to launch a new coroutine. Alright, now here first of all we are just going to create this variable count. If post is liked, we will set count to be -1, else it will be +1 or +1. Alright, so then we will make a copy of our post feed UI state. So we will set post feed UI state equals post feed UI state.copy. Here what we need to change is the post list. So we will call post feed UI state.post.map, and then inside the map block we will check if it.post id equals to this post that was passed here .post id. Then we'll make a copy of that and we will toggle the isLiked field, and then we will increment the likes count by calling post.likesCount plus the count. Now if it's not the post that was passed here, we just need to return it. Alright, now we need to scroll up to the top, and in the constructor of our home screen view model we need another use case. We will call this one as a like post use case, and this is going to be like post use case. Then we need to scroll again at the bottom where we have our like method. Here we will call like post use case to like this post, and we create this variable result to get the result that comes from liking a post. And then we will call this when expression on a result. And then if there was an error when we try to like a post, we will simply reset the post feed UI state that we have already modified here. And in case of a successful result, we will not do anything. All right, now coming here inside on UI action for the post like action. Now here we need to call like post, and of course we call UI action dot post. Alright, now let's run our application and test if we can at least increment the number of likes. Of course, we will need also to change the like icon. Oh yeah, of course. Now the home screen view model is taking a like use case. Again, we need to call get. Let's now rerun the application. Alright, so the app has launched. Let's try to like a post. And as you can see, we have liked our post. Now if we click again, this should now decrement the number of likes count. And of course we need to show a different heart icon here. Alright, now let me paste the drawable resource here inside our arrays and then drawable folder. You can just check my GitHub repository to get this like icon field. This is the icon. Then we need to open post list item. And we need to scroll down to post likes row. Alright, now for the painter, we will now have this condition for if the post is liked. Of course, we will take this parameter here, is post liked. And if a post is liked, in that case, we will show this like icon field as we will show the like icon outlined. Now, we will also modify the tint. Now for the tint, here we will also check if the post is liked. In that case, the tint should be red, else it should be this color here, black with just 55% of opacity. And I think that will work great for both light and a dark theme. Alright, so we need to fix some errors here. Of course, here we need to pass the is post liked. So for the is post liked, we pass post the is liked. Then we've got another error. I guess it for the is post liked, we will just set this to true. Alright, I guess now we can run our application and test. This is too darker. Maybe the black 54% is not an ideal color. But anyway, let's try to like this post. As you can see, it increments the number of likes count and also it shows a red icon. Let's just change the color for... Now instead of using black, okay, let's just use a dark gray. Now this is great in dark mode. Let's try to switch to the light mode. Yeah, I guess it's still great, even in light mode. You can like. Now here, of course, feel free to add some animations for the like icon. We can like this post, and let's now try to refresh the page. Of course, it refreshed the page and we have our liked state persisted. Let's close the app. Alright, now as you can see, we have our like icon that is red even when we restarted our application, and the like state has been preserved. We can load more posts. Alright guys, now I think we will stop here for this episode. Of course, there are still some tasks to implement and some UI to add on this home screen. For example, the plus icon that we should have here, the floating icon to create a new post. Since we haven't implemented the create post screen yet, that's why we don't have that floating action button. And also this navigates to profile screen to navigate to our own profile when we click on that icon. Alright, so we will end the video here for today and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.